back at Uni Razak studying my Masters. So my story with Islam actually begins with Uni Razak. Uni Razak is such a special university for me. I am their student ambassador for this year and next year, which is just one of many other announcements I've made recently. Now, my story of Islam really began there at Uni Razak. So when I came from doing my 2 years at the University of Edinburgh, I had 1 year exchange, and then I had to go back to University of Edinburgh and finish off my undergraduate degree in international business. First of all, when I came to Malaysia, I had no idea Malaysia was even this Muslim country. I didn't know anything about Malaysia. I came here, I started to see all the different religions and cultures here, and I was like, hey, this is all very interesting to me. I've never been in such a culturally diverse country in my whole life. So slowly but surely, I started to make a whole bunch of Muslim friends. But before that, when I started my journey at Uni Razak, I had a few extra courses that I could pick from, and one of those was Islamic studies. Now, I had a whole host of other business, entrepreneurial courses I could pick from, a whole host. But for some reason, when I was looking at this page of different courses I could take, I looked at Islamic studies and thought, hey, why not? Why not push myself to learn something completely new? Now, at this point, I only had one Muslim friend who I met, Ramsha. I met her at Edinburgh Airport when I was working there as an undergrad, and she told me a little bit about Islam when I was back in Edinburgh. And one of the things I remember working in the airport, now Edinburgh Airport is an extremely busy airport, especially during the summer months, and I remember Ramsha fasting, and we were all like, oh, are you dieting? And you know, Ramsha's a very petite lady, she doesn't need to diet, and she was like, no, I'm fasting for religious reasons. And we were like, wow, religious reasons, okay. Now, this was my first kind of introduction into Islam back in Scotland, and I didn't really understand, and I remember asking Ramsha a few questions like, oh, can you drink alcohol? And she was like, no. And I was like, wow, okay. So when I came to Uni Razak, I pushed myself to try learn a completely new religion. So when I took this Islamic study class, I remember going to the class, I was like, I don't know what to expect. Will people already be Muslim there? Maybe they've been Muslim their whole life, and then there's me. And now that I think about it, I was not even dressed appropriately for this class. Like, okay, of course I was not wearing hijab, but I was wearing like a short sleeve. I was wearing like jeans with these like big holes in them. Like, now that I think about it, I really should have dressed more appropriately for that class. But bless, my Islamic studies teacher was so sweet. She was like, Alana, come inside. She was like, Alana, what are you even doing here? And I was like, I just want to learn about Islam. And she was like, all right, great, sit down. So that was just a 3-month, 1-term Islamic studies class, and I know if you've been here on my channel, you've heard me talk and reference this class. Basically, we learned about like the 5 pillars of Islam. We really explored the hadith, and I really quite fell in love with the hadith at that point. A lot of things started to make sense in my head, and of course the Quran. We started to learn about parts of the Quran, and I remember my Islamic studies teacher, one of the first things she ever told me about Islam was, Islam is a religion that tries to preserve life at all costs. And I remember that just like flipped a switch in my head, and I was like, wow, a lot of things make sense now. For example, I don't want to talk much about alcohol, but like alcohol like clouds our judgment. It makes us not even know what we're doing, remember what we're doing, and that is not good to be a good human. If you are not intentionally trying to be a good human, the shaitan will come and try and take over your body and make you do things that are bad. So you're literally putting fuel in the fire if you're going to drink alcohol. You know, there's many other things that just started to make sense. And you know, Islam is all about like preserving a really beautiful family setup as well. Oftentimes I can see back home that the family structure is starting to break away, and I can see that almost less here in Malaysia, but definitely in Muslim countries around the world, which is super interesting. So of course my journey started to emerge at Uni Razak when I started my Islamic studies class. So over these 3 months I really delved into Islam, and I have honestly never researched something so much in my whole life during that time. In these 3 months, I was YouTubing, searching different things about the Quran. Like, I was doing so much research because something inside of me just like got kind of lit on fire. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This is not what I thought Islam was. If I look to how the West portrays Islam in the media, I'm so shocked. It could not be so far from the truth. And I advise you, if you are looking to convert to Islam, if you're just watching this video because you're curious, why is this Scottish girl wearing a hijab and talking about Islam? I tell you now, go speak to your Muslim friends. Go ask them about Islam. Go ask them about the fundamentals. Why do they love to be Muslim? Why are they Muslim? You will get a lot of answers that the West is not giving you, that is trying to twist your brain about. So I urge you, if you have Muslim friends, go and give them a chat. Go and talk to them about Islam. And talking about Muslim friends, during this 3 months when I was taking my Islamic studies classes, was actually my first 3 months here in Malaysia. And as it turns out, when I started to delve into Uni Razak, when I started to delve into my life here in Malaysia, I was surrounded by Muslim friends. I suddenly only had Muslim friends here. And again, I started to ask questions and explore Islam through their eyes. And hey, I'm not saying that's the best thing to do. You should read the Quran and find the fundamentals of Islam for yourself, but it's really interesting to go via your friends and see how they see it and see the beauty in their eyes when they start to talk about Islam. So yeah, I started to have a lot of Muslim friends. So this was pre-COVID, and then during COVID, again, I still had a lot of Muslim friends. I ended up in Bali, and it was time for fasting. It was time for Ramadan, and this was in 2020, and I decided, hey, I'm surrounded by my Muslim friends here in Bali, why not give Ramadan a go? Now, that first Ramadan in 2020, I was just focusing on the food fasting, to be honest with you. I had learned a lot about Islam just a few months prior, but I was focusing mainly on the food fasting because it was the first time I ever did this, and I really enjoyed the process. I enjoyed abstaining from food throughout the day, and then when you ate at night, you could feel that feeling that, gosh, I'm so lucky to have this food. I'm so blessed to have this food, in fact, when many people go throughout days without eating this food. And that really started to play in my mind. So now we have to kind of fast forward a little bit from 2020 to 2023. Those 3 years, I didn't give up on Islam. I was slowly going through, learning slowly, more and more about Islam. Then it comes to this year. Now, as you guys know, Zuleika took me to the mosque this year. So I got back to Malaysia in 2022, and I was so happy to get back. My goodness, my heart was so full. Then it came to January this year, and I decided, hey, something inside me was like, Alana, you need to go to the mosque. I don't know why. I was so adamant I wanted to go to the mosque. So I called Zuleika. I said, Zuleika, I want to go to the mosque. And Zuleika was like, okay, girl, I will come. I'll help you put on your hijab. I will tell you about the mosque, and let's go. And Zuleika, God bless her, alhamdulillah, came to my apartment, put my hijab on, and we went to the mosque, and that day was just so special. I don't know if Zuleika just feels like that was just another day going to the mosque, but for me that was such a special memory. I will never be able to thank Zuleika enough because she told me so much about wudu. She took me to the actual prayer area in the mosque, you know, and I've never been inside before, and we sat at the side and we watched the prayers. We watched like the men get together at the front and the women get together at the back, and I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. What a brotherhood, what a sisterhood. That was my first kind of entry into this whole brotherhood, sisterhood, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then we got talking to some Muslim reverts there at the mosque, and at that point I was asking them a lot about clothing. I was asking them, like, how did you feel wearing this? And they were like, look, it's just all part of the journey. You can't fight these things, you know. If you have to wear a certain way, then we have to wear a certain way, that's all. And I was like, okay. So it was really special to go to the mosque. Guys, this is all part of the story, you know. It's been 4 years I've been learning about Islam, so that was my first real mosque experience, really delving deeper into Islam, learning more about Islam. Then we can fast forward to Ramadan 2023. In April this year, I decided to try fasting during Ramadan, try the whole Ramadan experience again, but this time was a little bit different because not only was I focusing on like the food fasting, I was delving deep into Islam. It reminded me of how I felt when I first explored Islam back in 2019 in the Islamic studies classes. I felt this urge again, like I need to learn more, and again I was reading through books, you know, the Women in Islam book, Quran a little bit, Hadith a little bit, and just exploring Islam in a way more religious fashion. And you guys know that, you've seen that through my videos, and you guys were so supportive. That was the thing. Like, I know that some of my shorts on Instagram, some of them went a bit viral, and I know like some of the comments from people who don't know me from my YouTube channel were like, like, oh, why is she not wearing hijab? But for you guys that actually know me, you guys were just really excited that I was starting to explore Islam again in a more in-depth way. You guys know that I wasn't Muslim yet, but you were appreciating that I was like almost preaching about Islam before I was even Muslim. So for that, guys, I really have to thank you a lot, because nobody can speed up anyone's journey. My journey was 4 years. As I'm about to say, like, I fasted during Ramadan this year. You guys seen that I was like on the edge. A lot of you guys I know were praying and hoping like, okay, inshallah, she will be Muslim like us. And then we've got to fast forward to November. So this year has really been a big year for my Islamic journey. Going from Zuleika taking me to the mosque in January, we've got fasting, but also really pushing myself religiously during Ramadan in April. Then we fast forward to November. I finally got back to Malaysia just before Independence Day in August, and then it just kick-started everything again for me. And I thought to myself, it's now or never. You know, you can't keep holding on to something. You either do it or you don't. And it was getting to a point where I had to just make a decision. And of course, I met Mr. Abbas, and I really got to learn more about Islam through him as well. And of course, I have to still refer back to the Quran and the Hadith religiously, because that is what the Creator gave us as guidance, not Mr. Abbas. But luckily I did learn a lot from Abbas, and you guys always tell him he's got this huge responsibility now. Guys, my Islamic journey is my responsibility. It's not Abbas's responsibility. But alhamdulillah, I decided at the start of November it's time to take my Shahada. As you guys seen in my Shahada video, you guys left thousands and thousands of comments, literally thousands. So I would love to go through all of those and thank you, but that would not be possible. So alhamdulillah, thank you so much for all those comments. That was so kind. So yeah, I took my Shahada in November. It felt like the right decision for me. It was the right time to become a Muslimah. Now guys, what I want to say is, of course I'm wearing hijab in this video really out of respect, because perhaps one day there'll be a point where I will start to remove some of my older content, and maybe there'll be one day where I decide to be a hijabi full time. And a video like this, I don't want to have to delete in that process. So I am wearing a hijab right now out of respect for you guys, for myself, but it's going to be a slow process. I will not be a hijabi overnight. Inshallah, I will become a good Muslim that will be able to inspire the next generation in a good way. You know, I know the responsibility I now have on my social media, and I just need to take baby steps into the correct path, but it can't happen overnight. And you guys are not rushing me, which is so sweet. And literally all of the comments, you guys were like, Alana, take your time, don't feel rushed, don't worry, like, you know, your path is your path, and slowly you will learn more and more. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for not rushing me. And I know there will always be people that will come onto my channel, see that I'm Muslim, and start leaving like the hijab comments, but I will just ignore those for now, because this is my own path and I know the responsibility I have, but I also cannot be rushed, because if it's not coming from the heart, then the intention's not pure. So give me time for